A lot of you guys came at me really hard when I picked the Los Angeles Chargers to win the AFC West in my NFL predictions, and I gotta explain myself because a lot of you guys are heavily sleeping on the Chargers. Listen, you don't have to scream at me that this team is not that talented. I understand that, but I do have to continue to lecture you guys every offseason how you can't judge a team just strictly off talent. There were teams that made it to the playoffs last year that didn't look that talented on paper, that overachieved because they had great coaching. Prime example, the Los Angeles Rams. Most of us thought the Rams were going to be no better than a 7-8 win team, but they went to the playoffs despite the amount of young rookies that they had to play because of how good Sean McVay is. When you have an elite head coach, he can elevate the talent on his roster. Mike Tomlin has continued to produce winning seasons despite all the odds, playing in the toughest division in the NFL with no damn quarterback. He still finds a way to win. Why? Because he knows how to elevate the players on his team. Jim Harbaugh can do the same. Y'all seem to forget how dominant Jim Harbaugh was his first couple of years coaching in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers. Before he got there, they were irrelevant. People forgot about the 49ers. Then all of a sudden, they're in 3 straight conference championship games and they appeared in the Super Bowl. Y'all are severely underestimating the power of great coaching. I'm not overrating the Chargers. Y'all are underrating the Chargers because you continue to disregard how important it is to have great coaching. The Chargers have underachieved the last couple of years. Why? Not because they haven't had talent, because the coaching has been awful. Now you have a coach in Jim Harbaugh who knows how to win. There's never been a single place that Jim Harbaugh has coached at where he hasn't won. Name me one team that Jim Harbaugh has coached when his tenure ended up in a failure. Nowhere. This Chargers team doesn't need to be talented to win this division. Why? Because they have the perfect team in place to run the Jim Harbaugh style brand of football, which is being tough up front, having elite trench play on the offensive line and the defensive line, having outstanding rushing attack, something that the Chargers haven't had the last couple of years. You're finally going to have, and you got an elite quarterback too. With those things in place, the Chargers definitely have a good chance to win the AFC West. Kansas City, their offensive line is not as good as what the Chargers is. And a big reason why Kansas City has dominated this division for so many years is because the coaching has always been terrible. The other 3 teams in this division have swapped coaches nearly every 2-3 years. With Jim Harbaugh, this is a coach who's good enough to stop Kansas City from their domination over this division. He knows how to win. He knows what it takes to build a winner. The dude just won a national championship at his alma mater. He has assembled a really good coaching staff. What has killed the Chargers the last couple of years, and the main reason why they continue to underachieve, is because of poor coaching. With the elite coaching that they're going to have, with Greg Roman calling the plays on offense, they're going to have a top 5 rushing attack. And I'm not making this out to be a prediction. I'm telling you that this is actually going to happen. Everywhere that Greg Roman has been, he's produced elite rushing attacks. And it doesn't matter if you have Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins at running back. Any RB that gets plugged into Greg Roman's system automatically produces at a high level just because of how innovative he is with his blocking schemes and how he likes to call his running plays. When you got an elite offensive line, it's going to help that rushing attack perform at a high level. And with you now having the ability to run the football, you're going to be balanced and you're not going to have to overly rely on Justin Herbert to win you games. Well, what about the lack of talent that they have at receiver? Y'all don't know about Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey is extremely overlooked. He was a great route runner coming out of Georgia, great hands, creates tons of separation. and he's a really good blocker in the run game as well, he automatically is the Chargers wide receiver 1 right now. Greg Roman doesn't run an offense that's heavily dependent on having elite wide receiver play. And if you think about the history of Jim Harbaugh and everywhere he's been, he's never had outstanding wide receiving play when he's won. He's won with guys like Vernon Davis and Michael Crabtree being his 2 best options in the passing game before. You don't need to have elite wide receivers to win in today's NFL. I don't know why you guys continue to say, oh, we need elite receivers. We need to get better wideouts when Kansas City just won the damn Super Bowl with randoms at wideout, bro. If Kansas City can win a Super Bowl with Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Rashee Rice, Justin Watson at wideout, the Chargers can win this division with the guys they have right now. What about how improved this defense is going to be? You had a guy in Brandon Staley who was a defensive-minded coach, but yet the worst area of this team was always the defense. With Jim Harbaugh bringing Jesse Minter along with him, who was his defensive coordinator at Michigan, this is going to be a vastly improved defense. The Chargers are not going to recognize the defense that they are about to see on the field this year. This was a defense that last year under Brandon Staley, they were one of the worst teams against the pass. They were 29th in passing yards per game allowed. They were 28th in yards per game allowed. And they were 23rd in points per game allowed as well. The last 2 years that Jesse Minter was the defensive coordinator at Michigan, they were number 1 last year in points per game, and they were number 1 in yards per game allowed as well. 2022, the year prior to last, they were 6th in points per game allowed and 5th in yards per game allowed. And don't give me that whole nonsense of, well, he was a college coach, JT. You don't know how that's going to translate to the NFL. Newsflash, people, Jesse Minter has NFL experience also. They got him from the Ravens staff. It's like the Ravens and Jim Harbaugh swapped coaches. Jim Harbaugh gave John Harbaugh Mike Macdonald, and the Ravens gave Jim Harbaugh Jesse Minter. And when you have an NFL background, that's going to make from the transition, going from college back to the NFL, a little bit more easier. And he also runs an NFL-style defense. The Chargers' defense is not as bad as what you guys think. They still have a really good defensive line. You got Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa when he's healthy. Those guys are studs. Despite how old they're getting and their durability concerns, those guys are still going to be a huge factor this year on that defense. You signed Bud Dupree, who's always been a pretty solid rotational guy, and occasionally he can pop off for 7-8 sacks from time to time. You got a really improved linebacker unit. You drafted Junior Colson out of Michigan, who to me was the best linebacker coming out of this draft class. You got Denzel Perryman. The last couple of years, you guys have been starting Kenneth Murray at linebacker. He's been one of the worst in the NFL at his position. Your secondary is pretty solid. You got Asante Samuel Jr. and Derwin James is still one of the better safeties in the league, even though his play is starting to regress a little bit. And what gives me so much confidence that the Chargers can win this division over Kansas City is not only do you have Jim Harbaugh, coach who has won everywhere he's been, but you have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL this year. You only play 4 teams who can potentially make it to the postseason this year, and your 2 toughest non-division games you play at home this year against the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals in back-to-back weeks. Kansas City, they got a way more difficult schedule. They got way more concerns up front than what the Chargers do. Jim Harbaugh is not Brandon Staley. He's not Antonio Pierce. He's not like any other head coach that's been hired in this division to stop Kansas City from winning it. He is the best head coach that the Chiefs dynasty has faced since this Mahomes-Andy Reid partnership. Kansas City Chiefs fans are about to get a heavy dose reality when you're actually going up against a well-coached team. I get tired of hearing Chiefs and Raiders fans brag about how Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders hung 40 on them on Thursday night. Yeah, I'm willing to bet $1,000 the Raiders don't hang 40 on the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. You guys keep telling me I'm overrating the Chargers when I'm telling you that you're overlooking the importance and the impact of elite coaching. This is not going to be the same Chargers team that you've seen underachieve so many years. You got an elite quarterback, an elite head coach, elite offensive line. You're going to have an elite defense when you're good up front. You got a good quarterback. It doesn't matter who else you have at wide receiver. Jim Harbaugh's method of winning has been proven to work everywhere he's been, and it's going to work this season when the Chargers go 12-5 and they win the AFC West this year. You guys keep living in the past when football is a year-to-year sport. If we just judge teams based off what they did in the past, we will have the same playoffs every year and we will get the same Super Bowl every single season. It's a new year with the new regime, with the new head coach that knows how to win. He has the resume that he has shown he knows how to win. And the Chargers, right out the gate, year one under Jim Harbaugh, I am still really high on them, and I'm taking them to win the AFC West. I don't give a damn how many Super Bowls the Chiefs have won. I don't care if Kansas City has dominated this division for so many years. It's going to end this year. They're not as good up front as what the Chargers are, and they haven't gone up against a coach inside this division as good as what Jim Harbaugh is. You can say I'm overrating the Chargers all you want to. I'm going to keep telling you that you're underrating the Chargers, and you need to go reevaluate the importance of what it means to be a well-coached football team. We see plenty of teams underachieve every single year, not because of talent, but because they get let down by lackluster coaching. The biggest problem with the Chargers has been their inability to hire the right coach. They finally have the guy in Jim Harbaugh. It may seem like a hot take to pick the Chargers to win the AFC West over Kansas City, but I'm really confident that is going to happen.